Greetings. What's going on, Browns family? I'm back. Another episode of Dog Talk with yours truly, Mr. Bingo. Yes, brought to you by Browns of Columbus. Come on in, hit the like button, tell somebody, subscribe. There's going to be some changes, some things coming down the pipeline. I got, excuse me, an Ohio legend is going to join me in the next couple weeks. You see what I'm rocking. You already see what I'm rocking. I got my little bruh, Esteban Weaver, going to come on and talk. That episode will be more open. We still talk about the Browns, but he's a fan of another team, but I'm going to welcome him. You know what I mean? I want y'all to welcome him as well. As y'all come on in, I want to say greetings. Welcome. This is Dog Talk with Mr. Bingo, brought to you by Browns of Columbus. We are headquarters, I can say headquarters, at the Savoy Club at 1904 Lake Club Drive in Columbus. If you ever want to go out and watch the game, have a couple cocktails, drinks, socialize with like-minded people, come to the Savoy Club. Nice establishment. That's where the Browns of the backers, B.O.C, are located at. Let me go ahead. And get this together. Yes. Also, Browns backers will be hosting a bus trip on October 15th for the Browns and 49ers game. It's $65 for members, $70 for non-members, and it's transportation only. So you can go ahead and get you a ticket so you'll have a ride down there, have a good time. But it's on you to grab the ticket. If you don't want to go into the game, they'll be tailgating and watching the game outside, just soaking up and bringing that positive energy to the Browns this year. Please. So if you want to, reach out to Browns of Columbus at gmail.com. That's Browns of Columbus, gmail.com. And that'll go to the board, and you can ask one of them or let them know that you are interested in getting on the bus, taking the bus trip. When you let them know, also let them know if you do have a ticket or if you don't have a ticket. All right? That's very important for them to know, so they can let you know the location of where they're going to be at when the game is over with. Then after we get that dub, go ahead and have a good time coming back home. You don't have to drive. It's a bus. Make sure you like, subscribe, and tell a friend. Every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, we'll be talking about the Browns. There's a lot of things to talk about today. There's been a lot of changes because they had to get down to a 53-man roster in the practice squad. We'll be talking about who made the team, who didn't make the team. Just some of your favorite players that was, deep on the depth chart make it. We talked about in the early episode that this is one of the first years that the undrafted free agents had an uphill battle to make the squad. There's a couple of them that did. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about Speak for Yourself came out with the episode today, and we're going to discuss what they got wrong. Their approach. And this is not the first time that myself or someone has talked about or brought up how they portray the Browns and Deshaun Watson. We'll also talk and recap the um, last game that they had against the Kansas City Chiefs. What you could walk away with feeling good about, and what could bring or be some of your concerns. We'll touch on some of those because I watched the game, and it was like the tale of almost two halves. And if you have anything to say about it, make sure text or you leave a comment. I'll see what you say. Or coming up, it's gonna be oh some so the season here. Let me just say that the season here. You see, I got my bones on, got my dog bones. Yeah, because we are a little bit about a week and a half away from the first or the season opening game, where we'll see the full arsenal that the Browns have. They discussed that on Speak for Yourself as well. And we'll touch on that in the next segment. We'll also, test the temperature of the Browns fan, because one of the things that I wanted to do is make sure that we went into the season not really worrying about last season, the season before. I understand we are true to Browns history. But this team we putting out there now has a chance to change that if we, the fans, don't have that concern or that negative energy when something goes wrong. It's going to be some things that's going to go wrong in this season. Please believe that. Because my belief is that since the NFL really don't like the Browns organization like they do other organizations, because we've been pretty much a bottom dweller for the last, since we came back in 1999, that if you watch the game and you understand it, that the way it's officiated now, the referees can bail you pretty much out on any drive. And I say that because certain quarterbacks will get the benefit of the doubt of getting pass interference, holding, which will prolong or keep a drive going. I don't believe that the Browns are going to have that same opportunity unless it's blunt, because of the view and the personal bias of the league about the Browns. I'll let you chew on that for a minute. And when you watch the game and you see these things happening, you be like, Dad, Mr. Bingo said that. Why ain't we getting rough in the passer? Why ain't we getting these pass interference? Now, we are going to get some. Don't get me wrong. We will get some better or more frequently than we did in the past. And the reason why I say that is because we are going more to a passing offense, not so much like you think it's going to be a run and gun, but we do have a quarterback back there that can and will hit the receivers when they're open. So that means we have an opportunity to go down the field a lot more than we did in the past. We have Cooper, Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples Jones, and Njoku at tight end. That that in itself is a real good recipe for Deshaun to, really open it up this season. And if you listen to, I don't want to say his last interview, but when he spoke to the media not too long ago, he said that Coach Stefanski and the Browns pretty much gave him the keys to the offense. That is a scary thing. The only reason I say that is because Deshaun Watson is a student of the game. So if you're playing the soft or you're playing nickel or dime, it gives him a chance to audible out because it's a soft pocket. I'm sorry, it's a soft defense because there's more defensive backs on the field than it is defensive. Well, you got your 4 defensive linemen, but usually they substitute a D back out or linebacker out when they go to nickel or dime. So they're going to be lighter on the back end. And I'll take my chance with Chubb chewing up some yards against that front. And then when you go to change up and bring in a bigger package, now it's going to be over the top, picking you apart. One thing I did see in the preseason game was that Deshaun was more comfortable in the pocket. Not only was he comfortable in the pocket, but you can see that the receivers are starting to understand how to play with Deshaun. It might not sound like a lot to some people, but playing with Deshaun means that when he scrambles, he don't look to run all the time. He's a mobile quarterback, not a running quarterback like you would see in Baltimore that they're trying to change right now and let Lamar throw a little bit more. It's natural for Deshaun to do that in an offense that's based around him. So last year, when Brissett was in there, it was 3-step, get it out, don't give the defense a chance to pretty much react or think about what it is. This year, going to be a little bit more time in the pocket. Deshaun is going to be able to scramble. Now the receivers either got to break off their route or have a concept where one goes short, one go long, as we seen in the preseason game when Deshaun did scramble and he was able to find Cooper for 50 yards because Cooper seen that Deshaun was scrambling, so he, instead of coming back to the ball, he got behind the defense and allowed Deshaun to, toss it to him. So the more they play together, the more common and the easier it's going to be for them to do those drills or make those plays because now they know what they're dealing with when it comes to Deshaun. And as you see, when he threw that touchdown to Njoku, he got back to one of his signature moves where he pulls the bow and arrow out his back. That's almost like when Cam Newton will. That means you're in your zone. You're feeling comfortable about what you're doing, and the game kind of slowed down for you. Not only that, but the concepts that they are coming up with on offense is they're going to be able to dictate to the offense pretty much what they want to do. Because on that play where he hit Joku in the back of the end zone, had Elijah Moore at running back, and you had your running back out past the numbers. So now defense has got to figure out who you got, what person you're going to call, what they're going to do, and how you're going to cover Elijah Moore coming out the backfield. So it's going to be a lot of window dressing that the Browns are going to be able to do with the personnel that they have in there, because anyone on that offense can eat, put it that way. Whether it be Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, Njoku, and don't forget, and this is one of the things that they kind of shunned away or really don't talk about, is that Chubb can catch the ball. You know, the narrative was that, you know, when they had Kareem, he was the third down back. They used him, you know, to run some screens, to get out the backfield, so on and so forth. But Chubb can do that as well. So now with him being in on first, second, and third down, your offensive arsenal is wide open. Pick your poison, pretty much what they're going to say. Now, this is what we see, or this is what we think can happen. We won't know until we're in the season, bullets flying, they're in the middle of, you know, or in the game, to where it's actually going to take place. Because if you recall, last year, the Browns had a problem after the first drive. They weren't able to really muster up the same energy and the same production that they had in the first drive. First drive was always thing of beauty, you know, go down the field, score. But after that, when the team makes adjustments, that's where we started to see the Browns had, you know, problems. We shouldn't have that this year with Deshaun being under the center and having the freedom to call audibles, get in and out of plays. And these are what some of the greats do. You know, I used to watch Peyton Manning do it, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. You know, these quarterbacks had the freedom to call an audible if they seen something, and get themselves into a position where, with the personnel you have, you'll be able to see what defense they're in, depending on, you know, if you motion a man out or motion a man into the backfield, on how they're going to shift the defense will let you know whether they're playing man-to-man or they're playing a zone, which is going to help Deshaun out as well. Not only Deshaun, but the offense. So, you know, that's going to be real interesting. And matter of fact, now if you listen to the song I wrote called Dog Check, personally, I have a problem with the elf being at the middle of the field. But the Browns, what they did is they put out on their website for fans to vote on what we will want to see in the middle of the field. It came out this week that the fans voted to have an elf. Now, anyone that knows me and listens to the song, I'm against the elf. I'm sorry. Everybody has their opinions. We're all entitled to it. My opinion is the elf is a soft image. It's a fictitious, a fake, uh, a Disney type image that unless you playing balls out big boy football, that elf is going to allow your opponents to actually come into the game and look at you as if the team is soft because of the logo. I know it sounds funny, but as a football player myself, if I walk into somebody's home field and I see an elf, it's almost like as if I walked on the field and y'all got roses, you know what I mean? Or toilet paper. Same image. You don't mentally make your opponent fear what they're going to get into. I'm hoping that this season is going to be different, just from that mindset, that standpoint. Because I know players from other teams going to come in, and that's how they're going to look at it. But it's up to us, the Browns fans, and the players to change that narrative in other teams' head. Now, I believe we have the team this year that'll be able to do that. But we have to see. It's been in the past that every year that we come into the season with expectations, we end up falling very short of those expectations. Part of it, to me, was because of the quarterback we had behind the center. I don't think that's going to be a problem this time, because Deshaun is a different leader. He's built a different way, and he has never played with a team the caliber of what he has right now, what the Browns are putting on the field. Kudos to Andrew Berry. You are working your numbers. You are getting the players out there that the Browns need, because some of the media talking heads are paying notice to the roster that the Browns have put together. And I know it's on paper, but you hear me just talk about the offense. I ain't said nothing about the defense yet. Our defense look real nice. And that's without Myles Garrett playing in the preseason. And he's been mentioned as Defensive Player of the Year. Excuse me. And he's the only defensive lineman returning from last year. Start. So they went out and revamped, the defensive line. Got a new defensive coordinator, and believe it or not, and I'm like, Quincy, big ups. He talks. He got a podcast. You're going to check him out. He's always breaking down film, talking about the Browns, dropping videos. Him and G. Bush, I follow them. Listen to what they got to say. I love the fact that they got their own opinions. They're not. I ain't going to say really. They're not talking heads. They're Browns fans, but they call it like they see it, whether you like it or not, and they honest. So big ups to those two. But being myself, a common man that played the sports and a Browns fan, I'm gonna do the same. You know, call a spade a spade. But this year was Zadarius Smith on one end and Myles Garrett. Then you got Harris. Oh man, our defense, they're playing more aggressive. They're playing the run on the way to the pass. And I had mentioned this before on one of my earlier podcasts. That's a big difference when it comes to playing defense. My hopes is that it bleeds over to the offense, to where the offense is just as aggressive as the defense. Because as we've seen in the preseason, the way Swartz calls his defense, you're reacting a lot faster. You're not thinking about what you got to do. You're just going out there doing it. And if I'm not mistaken, and you can check my numbers, the Browns are was leading the lead in the preseason in takeaways. Take take it for a grain of salt. It is the preseason. But when was the last time we was able to sit back or sit down and say that the Browns was leading the league or even getting takeaways? That means more opportunities for the offense. That means shorter fields for the offense. Could translate to more points. Now, remember, I mentioned that the defense was doing this, and Deshaun, one, only played a couple drives. Myles Garrett didn't play. So you put Myles in that equation, it turns it up 3 or 4 more notches. So that means the ball got to come out faster. And our D backs, or at least our cornerbacks, are more suited to play man to man. Denzel, Newsome, Emerson can all play man to man. Now, take it that the Browns are going to give up some plays. Our defense is going to be susceptible to maybe screens every once in a while and inside zone. But more times than not, we're going to cause havoc and get off the field. Whereas years past, last year, the year before, the Browns was on the field for more third and fourth downs than I say half the teams in the NFL. So it's going to be good to see. And me personally, I'll be watching the defense because I like that mentality. I love that aggressive style on defense, that disruption, that I'm going to dictate to you. And you got to make changes. Now the game becomes a lot easier for our defense. So, man, make sure you like, subscribe, and tell a friend. Tell somebody. Every Wednesday at 9 o'clock, Dawg Talk with Mr. Bingo. We're going to touch on some things that talking heads and, other media talk about, but then we'll talk about things that, fans want to dig into. Like they got down to the 53-man roster. And a lot of us have been talking about Kate York. The Browns were very, very, very lenient. They gave him a long leash. A long leash. Remember, because last year he was the kicker that missed the most field goals. The Browns could have actually won maybe 3 more games if he would have, made his field goals or extra points. So they came into this year allowing him to find his way, and they believed in him because they drafted him in the 4th round. And as the preseason went on, he missed a field goal or extra point in every single preseason game. And the last one against Kansas City was the game winner. So it would have been hard going into the season with a kicker that you couldn't depend on. One, you can't depend on him. And most of the games in the NFL come down to three points, maybe a game winner here or there. And if you can't rely on your kicker to get you those 3 points, you will disrupt the entire team. Because it's not just a mix right now. The Browns are all in. Their window is, I want to say, the next 2 to 3 years before, I ain't gonna say, I can't even say things will fall apart, but things could change with the salary cap, players getting older, so on and so forth. But the Browns are planning on and moving forward as if they want it to be a long run. If you watch how Andrew Berry is orchestrating and getting the talent here to the Browns. Years past, we was always relying on free agents to come in to either be saviors or play up to the level that they played when we brought them in. But the mindset of those players sometimes was going to the Browns is where you go when your career is either over with, you're trying to just get paid, or where your career is going to die at. Now, Andrew is building through the draft. So we have depth behind the starters. And we just got to hope that the Browns will develop them so that as seasons pass, if you have to lose somebody or get rid of somebody, you have somebody that can step in now that's younger and gaining experience as time goes on. So I like what they're doing for the future and for the present. But when we talk about Kate York, we're talking about the present. And they cutting after last preseason game against Kansas City, and they traded for Hopkins, who is more experienced kicker. And there's no guarantee that him coming in is going, I ain't gonna say going to be any better, but it can't be no worse. And the last thing you want to do is go into this season with the gauntlet that the Browns got to go is faced with in the first 6 games, knowing that the game could come down to an extra point or a field goal, and you don't believe in the kicker that you have. Because now you have to call as a coach, an offensive coordinator, you have to call a totally different game. Whereas you will get down into the 35 or the 30 instead of, putting 3 points on the board. Now you're going to excuse me, it's two downs. You're going to 9 times out of 10 go for it on fourth because you don't want to give your opponent the ball and with the ball at the spot that the ball was kicked, or you don't want to be demoralized by not walking away with points after you moved all the way down the field. That will start to bleed over to the rest of the team, and it will put pressure on them, and they will start to doubt getting down into that area if they get bogged down. Not every not every offense is going to score every time they touch the ball. You rely on your kicker to get you three sometimes. And if your defense is not giving up any points, a kicker can win you the game if he has to kick 4 or 5 field goals. But if he's missing them, it resonates to the team. But so, with that being said, new kicker in. They was trying to move Kate York to the practice squad, which to me it don't make sense. I listened to Gerard Cherry and Emmett, and it would be like if he was on the practice squad, the kicker you brought in, now he's looking over his shoulder because if anything was to happen, you got this guy here that, of course you drafted, and you don't want your kicker to have that kind of, I ain't going to say pressure, but concern moving forward or kind of that doubt. So it's a good thing that he decided he didn't want to come back to the Browns practice squad. He ended up signing with Tennessee. We'll see how he do. No hard feelings. And he might even go on to be a bona fide kicker. But at this present time and what the Browns is doing, they wasn't going to roll those dice on the kicker, knowing how important, one, this season is, two, how each game can come down to a field goal or or extra point, and you have people's jobs on the line. Hypothetically, or let's think about it, if you play Cincinnati and it's a game winner to win the game, and you lose that, you go into the next game Monday night against the Steelers, one, with a bad taste in your mouth, two, looking at your kicker sideways like that. You got one job to do, and you couldn't do that. So now with the players, even though they playing hard, it's still that little iffy in them dealing with, that kicker. So they eliminated that element of the game. Um, if Hopkins come in and he does his thing, kudos. If he had the same, problems that York have, we'll be revisiting this conversation again. But it won't be in game one unless he messes up on game one. Yes. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, tell a friend. It goes down every Wednesday at 9 o'clock here on Browns of Columbus, Dawg Talk with Mr. Bingo. Now we're gonna change a little bit. We're gonna talk about some of the roster moves because today the Browns got down to 53-man roster. They waived a lot of players yesterday. Few of them really didn't get picked up off waivers, but it was some players that the Browns had that end up moving. I said one was Kate York, end up in Tennessee. You have Felton. He's up. He's down there in Cincinnati now. I think he's on the practice squad. We re-signed Dunn, offensive lineman that played with us when we went to the playoffs. Ronnie Hickman made the 53-man roster. He led the league he led the league in preseason in interceptions. Undrafted free agent out of Ohio State made the squad. Diabate, the linebacker that we talked about last week, that was having a good preseason, he made the squad. And then one of the fan favorites, Austin Watkins. He was waived yesterday, slid through waivers, re-signed him to the practice squad. So he's going to get a chance to, I can't say really play unless we have injuries or he decides, he wants to ball out on the special teams. But he has the opportunity with the Browns now after what he showed to, further educate, further build his game. And I do believe that at some point in the season, the Browns are going to call on him. So big ups to him. And the Browns, pretty much brought back a lot of the players that they did waive. They brought back Hurst, defensive lineman. And what I think was that Barry was playing the roster game so that he could finagle, make certain moves when it came to the Brown in this roster. They went out and got a quarterback from Kansas City. And when they brought him in, they released A.J. Green, put him on waivers. I don't know if they're going to bring him back on the practice squad, but they had to make a move when they signed undrafted free agent cornerback from Kansas City. He was balling this preseason, and the Browns got a chance to see him firsthand. And then from my understanding, listening to G. Bush, that the Browns have pretty much, when they dig into either trading or undrafted free agents, they rely on players or they go back to players that they probably looked at early in the draft that they wasn't able to get. And another team picked them up and they probably didn't work out. And they brought them in because, now they ahead of the game because they had a little bit more work on them or paperwork on them because they looked at them and possibly or had a chance or would have drafted them. So Barry is, Harvard grad. Some say he's right now a C plus because a lot of the players that he have drafted haven't really panned out, made the Pro Bowl, or shined like that. But you got to look at what this man has done in totality and think about some of the drafts some of the free agents he done brought in to help the Browns out. Like he got Cooper for a steal. Pretty much robbed Dallas. Elijah Moore gave up a second round pick for this young man, and they're going to use him in so many ways this year that it's going to scare defenses. The running back that they picked up because Ford is injured. He's back in practice now, but they picked up a running back from New England, excuse me, that they had an eye on last year in the draft. So they have a plan and they're working it. And we'll see how it pans out as the season go on. And if these first couple games go, the way it should, and we ball out, it's going to catapult the Browns the rest of the season, because as the wins pick up and stack up, now the team will have a different confidence about itself moving forward. And the reason why I say that, because this preseason is going to help, because not only, you know, uh, is the roster nice, but they played Kansas City, who won the Super Bowl, and the Eagles, who was in the Super Bowl. So you already know you can match up with these teams in certain aspects, but it's just got to be proven on the field. So that gives them a little bit more confidence in what they can do and what they're being taught to do. That this might be the team that pushes for a deep run in the playoffs. Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. The B.O.C. Dawg Talk with Mr. Bingo is live every Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Now, I ran across Speak for Yourself before I came on air. And every time they talk about Deshaun Watson, they always mention his money. What happened and what he did last year, I guess that's played out. But for some reason, they talk about this man's money as opposed to what he could do on the field. Personal bias to me. You have one person on there, and his name escaped me, but he says that the Brown has the roster to win the AFC North on paper. Let's put that out there on paper. The three other ones pretty much laughed and chuckled. What about Cincinnati? What about Baltimore? No one said anything about Pittsburgh, but they was quick to push back when he was talking about how the Browns was designed to have a good year. And all they could say was, well, they better. They better. Deshaun Watson Deshaun Watson got this contract. First of all, Deshaun Watson is the seventh highest paid quarterback. There's other quarterbacks making way more money than Deshaun right now. But they always talk about his money, and I never hear him talk about Herbert's money when they talk about that quarterback and his football team. And he hasn't done much. Probably got a high ceiling, but he hasn't done much. So I would appreciate it if they stop and just talk about the man's game. What, y'all mad that he got the money? Or y'all mad the Browns was able to pay him that money? But what is it? Is it you don't like the fact that he's still able to play a game that he loved because of allegations? I'm not really understanding why they have the energy for Deshaun and the Browns and not other quarterbacks that haven't really proven And they will sit there and tell you, well, if Deshaun get back to a top 5 quarterback like he was when he was in Houston, but he better because he getting all this money. Cut it out. Cut it out. Let the man play. Let them dogs play. Because I guarantee you one thing. They forgot about Roethlisberger's situation. And he was not accused but found guilty. Winning cures all. Winning cures all. And Deshaun Watson is back to Deshaun Watson. It's going to be fun watching these Browns. I will see y'all next week before the season starts. And also, subscribe so you can get the short videos that I'll be dropping during the week because, they had a 53-man roster now, but it would constantly change in the next couple weeks or even in the next 24 to 48 hours. So I'm going to start dropping little videos to get my take and what it is I see and understand about what's going on. Until next week, I'm Mr. Bingo. Enjoy Dog Talk. Where my dogs at?